Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour, Prime Minister holds a high-level meeting at his residence. The Indian Armed Forces successfully defend northern and western cities against a barrage of drone and missile attacks by Pakistan. Pakistan reaches a new low, targets gurudwaras, churches and temples by design, and uses civilian aircraft as shield. India continues to garner global support for its resolute response. 27 nations of the EU issue strong statement. India's retaliatory steps hit the limping Pakistan economy badly. India opposes further IMF assistance to Pakistan. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a high-level meeting at his residence in the national capital. The Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, the Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan, and the chiefs of all three armed forces, the Army, Navy and Air Force, were all present at this meeting. And the Indian Armed Forces thwarted all attempts by Pakistan to target northern and western cities using drones and missiles last night. The Indian Army shared a video and said that Pakistan troops also resorted to numerous ceasefire violations along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. The drone attacks were effectively repulsed and a befitting reply was given to the CFVs. And the Indian Army remains committed to safeguarding the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the nation, and all nefarious designs will be responded to with force. According to the Headquarters Integrated Defence Staff, 8 missiles from Pakistan were directed at Satwari, Samba, Arispura and Ardnia of Jammu and Kashmir. All missiles were intercepted and blocked by air defence units. Pakistan had attempted infiltration at 36 locations from Leh to Sir Creek last night by using around 400 drones. The Indian Armed Forces shot down many of these drones using kinetic and non-kinetic means. In a special briefing in New Delhi, Colonel Sophia Qureshi of the Indian Army said that on the night of May 7 and 8, the Pakistani Army violated Indian airspace several times over the entire western border with the intention of targeting military infrastructure.
8 से 9 मई 2025 की मध्य रात्रि को पाकिस्तानी सेना ने सैन्य बुनियादी ढांचे को निशाना बनाने के इरादे से पूरी पश्चिमी सेना पर भारतीय वायु क्षेत्र का कई बार उल्लंघन किया। यही नहीं बल्कि पाकिस्तानी सेना ने नियंत्रण रेखा पर भारी कैलिबर वाले हथियारों से गोलीबारी भी की। अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सीमा और नियंत्रण रेखा पर लेह से लेकर सर क्रीक तक 36 स्थानों पर 300 से 400 लगभग ड्रोनों का इस्तेमाल घुसपैठ का प्रयास करने के लिए किया गया। भारतीय सशस्त्र बलों ने काइनेटिक्स व नॉन काइनेटिक साधनों का उपयोग करके इनमें से कई ड्रोन्स को मार गिराया।
Also, the Indian Air Force's Wing Commander Vayomika Singh informed that in response to the Pakistani attack, the Indian armed drones were launched at 4 air defence sites in Pakistan, and one of the drones was able to destroy an AD radar. And she added that Pakistan Army also suffered major losses in Indian retaliatory fire.
Later in the night, an armed UAV of Pakistan attempted to target Bhatinda military station, which was detected and neutralized. In response to the Pakistani attack, armed drones were launched at 4 air defence sites in Pakistan. One of the drones was able to destroy an AD radar. Pakistan also carried out artillery shelling across the line of control using heavy caliber artillery guns and armed drones at Tandhar, Uri, Poonch, Mendhar, Rajouri, Akhnur and Udhampur in Jammu and Kashmir area, which resulted in some losses and injuries to Indian Army personnel. Pakistan Army also suffered major losses in Indian retaliatory fire.
And Nandita Dagar has been following the story closely. She joins us now from New Delhi with more. Nandita, well, Pakistan is resorting to drones and missiles. Give us an account, of India's measured response.
Yes, Mark, I come to you from the seat of India's power. Here behind me is the South Block, there's the Rashtrapati Bhavan in between, and the North Block is here, of course. India is still, the majority of India is sleeping peacefully as our soldiers, airmen and our sailors are giving it their utmost. So that, and they are not sleeping at all, as we very well know by now, that on the night of 8th to 9th May, as this Foreign Ministry briefing by our Foreign Secretary Mr. Vikram Misri, as well as Wing Commander Vyomika Singh and Colonel Sophia Qureshi brought out, that more than 300 to 400 unmanned aerial vehicles were disabled and neutralized by the Indian air defense system in around 36 locations, ranging from Leh in the Union Territory of Ladakh to Sir Creek in Gujarat, which includes the frontage in Rajasthan, Punjab, the LOC north of Pir Panjal as well as south of Pir Panjal, places like Uri, Poonch, Mendhar, places in Kashmir such as Tangdar and Kupwara. So how was that made possible? That was made possible by India's very, very consistent and very diligent support to the drone system, especially when these two service officers mentioned kinetic and non-kinetic means. Kinetic is when these drones are intercepted by our air defense system, and for that you have to load the S-400 Triumph missiles, which India purchased from Russia in 2019, 18-19, and might I add, despite and withholding a lot of pressure from the US, because the US had threatened India not to buy them from Russia under the CAATSA, which is countering American adversaries through the Sanctions Act. And India, the Modi government took a very bold step, and look how the S-400 has served India. Of course, there are the airmen and the men behind the machine. Of course, that is there. But this is a game-changing platform, a game-changing capability enhancer. That, along with the Barak 8, which are strategic relationship with Israel has ensured. Now we have, as our sources tell us, that out of the 5 squadrons, 3 are on our northern and western borders. They acting along with the Barak and our homegrown, home-designed Akash surface-to-air missile and our loitering munitions. Now, non-kinetic means also they mentioned. That is how we jammed these drones using electromagnetic waves, cut off their command and control, their connection with their command and control system to their motherships. So over a sustained period of time, considering that drones, cyber warfare, robotics is the warfare of the future, the Modi government has invested in S-400s and these drones.
Yes,
of
indeed,
course,
Nandita.
The two officers all.
Yes, yes, Nandita. Yeah, I'll come back to you, Nandita. Yes, we also have Vishal with us from Srinagar. Vishal, now, Pakistan has long resorted to ceasefire violations along the LOC. What additional precautions have been taken by the people living close to the LOC and the international border?
Well, Mark, as I speak to you, I can hear the hooter sounding. The siren has been sounded. It's blackout in Srinagar. And as I speak to you, breaking news just coming in, which has been informed and confirmed by the Indian Army. There has been attack on Jammu, drone attack. The drones have been engaged by Indian Army. Jammu under attack. Jammu, Samba and Pathankot. These are the 3 places which are under attack from Pakistan. So again, Pakistan resorts to drone attacks. You heard Nandita talking about the kamikaze drones. Kamikaze is a technique used by the Japanese during the Second World War, when you are full of ammunition, your aircraft is full of ammunition, and you just commit a suicide crash in the enemy domain. And this is what Pakistan is trying, and this is day 2. So as I speak to you, blackout in Srinagar, blackout in Jammu, and 3 areas, Jammu, Samba and Pathankot. These
Yes.
are the places which are under attack from Pakistan.
Indeed. Nandita, also, Pakistan has been resorting to using civilian aircraft as a shield. What measures have been taken to strengthen, the border defense systems, and also the retaliation is being measured and also restrained by India because of Pakistan using civilian aircraft as shield?
In the foreign ministry briefing by our foreign secretary Vikram Misri today and yesterday, both the times he said that India only avenged the loss of life of its 26 civilian innocent tourists who were killed at point blank range in Pahalgam on 22nd of April, and India only carried out a deterrent and preemptive strikes, and therefore it was up to Pakistan to not escalate and climb up the escalatory ladder. Yet when you say that Pakistan, this is something that was brought about by both the service personnel today at the foreign ministry briefing. They clearly pointed out that while India had cleared its airspace in the north, western and central India, Pakistan had not done it. India had done it 3-4 days back. In fact, much before 7th of May, the hostilities began. And the reason for that is that Pakistan was using civilian passenger jets as human shields. They believed that India would not retaliate, India would not target its air defense installations if its civilian air defense, if its passenger jets are in the air, as these two service personnel brought out with documentary evidence of Flight Radar 24 printouts where they showed that Pakistani passenger jets were still flying, and they were hoping against hope that India would restrain itself, because they obviously know that India is not a rogue state just as Pakistan is. Pakistan can use people as human shields. It does not even claim the dead bodies of its soldiers in the Kargil war. It disowns them. So it is not actually surprising that it did not ensure any air clearance over its airspace.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Nandita Dagar and Vishal Barristow, for joining us. And Vishal, do take care. Now, moving on then, amidst the smoke and chaos of conflict, it is easy to lose track of where it started and the direction in which it is headed. On April 22, Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir, terrorists, gunned down 26 people. Most of them were Indian tourists. A terror group called the Resistance Front, the TRF, claimed responsibility for the attack. The TRF is a shadow group of Pakistan-based Lashkar-e-Taiba, the LET. Then on May 7th, the Indian Armed Forces launched Operation Sindoor, hitting terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. These actions were focused, measured and non-escalatory in nature. No Pakistani civilian or military facilities were targeted. India demonstrated considerable restraint in selection of the targets and the method of execution. Now, these words are important to remember: focused, measured and non-escalatory. India does not seek a wider conflict. It is Pakistan who then escalated the conflict on the intervening night of the 7th and 8th of May, targeting India's military installations across multiple cities. India's air defense foiled those attacks. It also intensified cross-border firing. India retaliated with similar force, and the targets neutralizing air defense facility of Lahore in Pakistan. Since then, tit-for-tat military actions have followed. Why am I taking you through this all over again? This is to emphasize the point that Pahalgam terrorist attack of the 22nd of April is the original escalation. Those terrorists, in fact, it was these terrorists who chose their victims on the basis of religion. They killed the Hindu men, and before you think their loyalty lies with any faith, they also killed a Muslim local who tried to protect the innocent tourists. In that sense, the target of the terrorists was also the social fabric and religious diversity of India. While talking to the press, India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri said that Pakistan is targeting and shelling places of worship with a particular design, including gurdwaras, churches and temples.
heavy shelling across the line of control in the early morning of 7th May. A shell fired from Pakistan landed just behind the Christ School run by the Carmelites of Mary Immaculate congregation in Puj. Tragically, the shell fired from Pakistan hit the home of 2 students of the Christ School. Both students unfortunately lost their lives and their parents were severely injured. Another Pakistani shell struck a Christian convent of nuns belonging to the congregation of the Mother of Carmel, damaging water tanks and destroying solar panel infrastructure. Several priests, nuns, school staff, and local residents took refuge in an underground hall beneath the Christ School during the shelling by Pakistan. The school happened to be closed at the time, fortunately. Otherwise, more losses would have occurred. Again, we have seen the Pakistani side targeting and shelling places of worship with a particular design. This includes gurdwaras, these convents and temples. This is a new low even for Pakistan.
Well, referring to Pakistan's denial of attack, India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri said that it is another example of duplicity.
These provocative and escalatory actions that were taken by Pakistan last night were targeted at Indian cities and civilian infrastructure, in addition to some military targets. The Indian Armed Forces responded proportionately, adequately, and responsibly. What I want to underline is that the official and blatantly farcical denial of these attacks that Pakistan carried out by the Pakistani state machinery is yet another example of their duplicity and the new depths that they are plumbing in their quest for disinformation.
Well, Foreign Secretary Misri also announced that the services of the Kartarpur Sahib corridor have been suspended till further direction.
I think you're all aware of the situation along the entire India-Pakistan border and the areas around the line of control. In view of the existing security scenario, the services of the Kartarpur Sahib corridor have been suspended till further directions. We'll update you as and when there is a change in the situation.
And speaking on the IMF meeting being held today, the Foreign Secretary also said that India is going to share its perspectives on various issues to the concerned members, and then it's up to the board to decide further course of action.
IMF की आज मीटिंग हो रही है. हम वहाँ पे अपना पक्ष रखेंगे और जो हमारा मत है इन चीज़ों को लेके वहाँ पे साझा करेंगे दूसरे मेंबर्स के साथ. ये बोर्ड पे निर्भर है कि वहाँ पे क्या निर्णय होता है.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar attended the 80th anniversary celebrations of the Victory Day at the Embassy of Russia in New Delhi on Friday. Speaking at the event, Jaishankar thanked global allies for supporting India's resolute response that is underway amid tensions with Pakistan.
When India is confronting the challenge of terrorism, one that is a shared threat to the international community, I thank those who have expressed solidarity with us and understand the resolute response that is underway.
Coming up, we'll get you the expert opinion on India's measured and non-escalatory response to Pakistan's attempts to hit Indian cities. introduce you to our guests. Air Marshal Anil Chopra, retired, is a former Director General of the Centre for Air Power Studies. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, retired, is a former Director General of the Infantry. And TCA Raghavan is a former Indian High Commissioner to Pakistan. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us. Air Marshal Chopra, if I can start with you. You know, India's intelligence and defense systems were able to detect and neutralize Pakistan's drone attacks today. What does this indicate, you know, of India's state of preparedness for modern warfare? Sir, we can't hear you. Okay, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Before I come to the anti-drone system,
Yeah.
let me explain to you a word that the Foreign Secretary just used, that Pakistan hit a new low, and we have shown restraint and maturity all through. You know, you'll recall that, you know, after 2008 Mumbai attacks, we just took a diplomatic position. Finally, after Uri, we went and did a ground strike. And after the, you know, Pulwama, we went for a strike. And now this is the next level, and we have now hit 9 targets. Now, let me tell you about the drones. You know, while we continue to show maturity, Pakistan has been using these drones to hit civilian targets, to try to kill people. They have not been successful. India has got a very strong, integrated anti-drone system, which is very well networked, whether it's the BSF, the Army, Air Force, Navy, everybody. We combined. We've got different ways of neutralizing the drones. You know, we can neutralize the drones with SAM systems. You know, even S-400 can take on cruise missiles, drones, and of course, it takes on larger targets at very, very long ranges of as much as 400 kilometers. We have our indigenous Akash air defense system, which is also capable of taking down drones. We have the L-70, upgraded L-70 guns and the Shilka guns with the Indian Army and the Air Force. There are other non-kinetic means. We have got, you know, drone guns, which can throw a net and take down a drone. We have got lasers. We have got electronic warfare. We can jam their GPS. So there are various methods being done, used. You know, on the first day, they had sent a wave of about 100 drones. Now, the second day, they sent a wave of around 400 drones. In this, they also tried to hit some more military targets, very unsuccessful. Most of the drones have been found on the ground. They haven't hit no targets. These drones have been shown in the media by the Indian government, and therefore we know that the success has been poor. But the good thing is that a large number of these drones have actually been physically shot up by the integrated air defense system that India has put in place against the drones. Many others which did go through have not been able to cause much damage. One, because they were not accurate. Second, that they were of a very low potency. They were cheap drones. They did not hit the targets. They have a very, very low area of coverage that they can achieve. To have a drone which can at best destroy about a meter or two, it's not likely to cause much damage. So there you can see that in technology, whether they're poor drones or our very powerful air defense systems, we are much better off. We are much safer and much more capable. Even tomorrow, if they were to embed some cruise missiles within this drone attack, we will be able to take them on. And just to you know, make things difficult for them, you know that yesterday morning we hit their early warning radar. We hit their HQ-9 SAM system in Lahore. You know, it's been totally destroyed. So we have shown our capabilities. We will kill their finish their launch pad, we will finish their capabilities on the ground. And since they have now targeted some of our airfields with these drones, appropriate response will be given. There will be now some reaction to hitting military targets so that they can't get away with this attack. Yes.
General Kulkarni, so that's as far as the air power is concerned, but you know, to strengthen the borders as well, because we are used to ceasefire violations by Pakistan, but they have increased in number and also in scale. So to what extent, you know, has India been able to strengthen its border defense mechanisms?
Over the years, definitely, India has years of defenses all along. But despite that, even after the ceasefire violations that have taken place, we realized that, well, for the last about 10 to 12 days, they constantly were at firing the small arms along the LOC. But notwithstanding that, they suddenly seems in the last about 3 to 4 days have upgraded to artillery fire, and a very strong artillery fire, which of course we have reciprocated in equal terms, and there would be damages on the other side too. But at least on our side, a lot of civilian houses have got damaged, resulting in death of women and children. Targeting, again, a very new low in Pakistan's behavioral pattern and the mindset, that they have targeted temples, gurudwaras, churches, and the schools, the convent schools. So that is indicative that they knew exactly the grid references of all these places, and there was specific targeting of these areas, which again seems to virtually match with the kind of behavior that they did at Pahalgam, where they sort of segregated people from one religion and sorted out 25 of them belonging to one, except for one boy, Adil, who was a local, who also got shot by them. So this is indicative, and all of it, again followed by what the jihadi general, the chief, had said about, on how different were they from the Hindus, and specifying that they were different from Hindus is indicative that they wanted to sort of bring in differences and within the Indian community, between the Indians and Muslims, and to his extreme bad luck, extreme bad luck, the way we were all, we stood united, and that unity is something which is absolutely baffling to the enemy, and that is where Pakistan is now totally ruffled as to how is it every attempt of theirs wanting to divide the society seems to be consolidating the society and going against them. I think that's something which the Pakistanis are unable to digest. Not knowing and withstanding that, I would just here add on that in all the wars before, right till Kargil, be it 65, 71, Kargil, they were using the American equipment, and most of the equipment was American. And now, in this particular conflict with India, they have used the Chinese equipment, and the Chinese equipment is about 80% of the inventory, resulting in they themselves. I heard a lot of people on the YouTube, their people saying, how is it that the Indian missiles were not being able to be intercepted by Pakistan when Pakistan claims to be having good air defense? What happened? Why did it go wrong? How is it the Indians in 25 minutes firing 24 missiles on 9 targets, all of them hit and all of them destroyed? Why is it if the Indians had not picked on these 9 targets? Because we picked on these 9 targets because of terrorist hideout, terrorist location. All along, we did not target any of the civilian installations. We did not target any of the military installations, and that is what is again baffling them. So we were targeting the terrorists, but Pakistan has targeted India, and therefore the retaliation by India has been huge and massive. Firstly, defending itself, intercepting all the missiles, intercepting all their drones, and what you're being showing on the screen, these are the debris of the ones which were intercepted. They've been found lying, almost 15 odd targets of Pakistan along the Indian side, most of them military installations, and they're joining villages and towns of those which have been intercepted, and the debris are found there. Surely, again indicating that Pakistan has, as a rogue state, cannot be trusted, and is intended to taking a kind of a confrontationist attitude with India, much that we have been very, very, I think, ensuring that we do not target the civilians, we do not target the military installations, just to tell them and the entire world, India stands against terror. And this has been appreciated by the entire world, that yes, India stands against terror, and most of the countries, including China, have stood by India to say yes, India stands against terror, and that Pakistan is a rogue state. I think that's a very good thing. But again, knowing fully well, 2 nights, and today again, on the 3rd night itself, again Jammu, again Samba, again Pathankot, the target, same kind of missiles and drones. I'm sure, like what Marshal Chopra said, they are not the kind that can actually, they're very, very small in size, but notwithstanding that, swarms of drones, all of them being knocked off, an excellent air defense system that we have. We've utilized all of it, and I'm sure Pakistan will not succeed in its nefarious design of wanting either to divide the society or to be able to damage any of the things across. And I think that's the big thing. But again, as I said, Pakistan is a rogue state which continues to use terrorism as an instrument of state policy.
Ambassador Raghavan, what impact will Pakistan targeting of religious sites, have on India's diplomatic offensive? India, as we know, has reached out to every country, explaining, or rather, putting it clearly across that India has acted with restraint and in a measured way.
Well, it's very evident from all the briefings by the Foreign Secretary so far that the point which has been emphasized very consistently is that our response is proportionate and consciously non-escalatory. Despite that, it's very evident that the situation is escalating. Now, your question about what impact will the attacks on civilian targets and attacks on religious institutions have on other countries, such attacks always have a bad impact on other countries. And certainly nobody wants to see civilian casualties in any conflict. But other countries are more concerned right now about the escalatory spiral which is coming into play. And they are particularly concerned because of what they see as the possible nuclear threshold coming closer. Now, that still may be some distance away, or it may not be a realistic possibility at this stage, but nevertheless, those are the concerns which provide the prism through which third countries look at what is happening in the India-Pakistan context. I think the point which the Foreign Secretary has been emphasizing from the beginning, that our response was to a provocation which took place in Pahalgam, and our response was consciously non-escalatory, and it focused entirely on terrorist targets. I think is the important point. The point is not to let the situation escalate further. We have conveyed very strong messages to Pakistan post Pahalgam. Those messages were in part diplomatic, such as keeping the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance along with other measures, and thereafter the punitive action taken against the terrorist infrastructure sites are also part of that very, very firm message which has gone. But the need of the hour now is to de-escalate the situation, and I do hope that saner minds in Pakistan will prevail, and they will see the futility of these tactical strikes and counter-strikes which are currently taking place.
Do stay with us, gentlemen. We'll play out a package about how India continues to get support from world leaders. World leaders and prominent international figures have expressed strong support for India's Operation Sindoor, a precise military strike conducted against terrorist camps in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir on May 7. Now, Western allies, including the UK, France and the US, have firmly backed India's right to defend itself. Here's the report.
India's approach has earned it a strong backing from the international community to counter terrorism after it launched Operation Sindoor. UK Foreign Minister David Lammy said India had every reason to be outraged, while former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak asserted that no country should tolerate cross-border terror. The US President Donald Trump expressed solidarity with India, affirming its sovereign right to combat terrorism, while also urging restraint and a diplomatic path forward. The European Union and all 27 member states issued a unified, strong statement. Russia, while calling for restraint from both sides, made it clear that it condemns all forms of terrorism and is deeply concerned about the military escalation. The countries including USA, UK, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar and UAE have supported India's position. Israel also stood firmly with India, Its ambassador remarked that terrorists have no sanctuary and supported India's right to defend itself. Global leaders know that India did not strike first and it only responded to terror. Operation Sindoor sends a strong and stern message that India will not stay silent in the face of terrorism and will act whenever needed, but always with care. Bureau Report, DD India.
Hey, Marshal Chopra, do you see India, successfully balancing the military retaliation with good diplomatic restraint, in dealing with this particular aggression of Pakistan?
Absolutely. I think India has been very clear from the day one. We are not for escalation. We have not hit any military targets. We haven't hit the civilians. And I think the message has been very clear, whether it's by the Foreign Secretary's briefing, whether the way our External Affairs Minister has spoken to his counterparts all over the world, the way the statements are coming from all over the world, that we are not for escalation. We are not the ones who hit the military targets first. We were not the first ones who hit the civilian targets. In fact, we never hit the civilian targets. Only they have hit the civilian targets. I must also mention that this system of using human shields, no mature military in the world uses human shields. In Ukraine and Russia war, human shields were never used. The only people who have used human shields till now, Hamas. And that's a terrorist organization. So if Pakistanis are using human shields, as you have reported earlier in the program, then that shows that they are equivalent of a terrorist organization and not a professional military, who has to use a civilian human shield. So first point I want to make. Clearly, we are not escalatory, but I also want to assure the nation that we are much better off. Our military is the most powerful military in the world. Our systems are very good. We have already demonstrated the anti-drone system. We have already demonstrated capability to strike high-value targets like the HQ-9 and the radar that we sent with it. We have already spoken about the quality of the some of the Chinese equipment. HQ-9 is a 40-year-old system, which is a copy of the S-300 Russian. Chinese have everything that they have made till today are reverse engineering copies of Chinese or Russian systems. So therefore, HQ-9 but had to be neutralized because it still has a range of around 200 kilometers. The JF-17s, they have sold to Nigeria, they have sold it to Myanmar. They are lying grounded. They are cracks on their wings. The Myanmar didn't take the full deliveries. So that is the kind of equipment they have got compared to ours. Even air-to-air, missile advantage. We clearly have the Meteor, which has got 180 kilometers range, whereas the Chinese PL-15E, the export variant that's been given to Pakistan, has got less than 140 kilometer range. And our own Astra and other missiles that are there in our inventories are much, much better. So if they decide to escalate, which is subject with the question that you had asked,
yes,
they are asking for trouble. They've already gone to the IMF. They don't have money. They have less than $10 billion of foreign reserves vis-a-vis our $680 billion. And if the country which is with a begging bowl requesting every time the IMF to bail them out, to give them another lane, how many days they will be able to last if they decide to escalate. They will run out of ammunition very, very quickly. They will not be able to purchase fresh equipment from outside. There are no more donors for them. Chinese have already sunk in too much of money. They already lost so much of money and nothing they're getting in return. CPEC is being attacked by the Baluchis every other day. So therefore, Pakistan is a country in trouble. Afghanistan is against them. The Pashtuns are against them. The Baluchs are against them. The Sindhis are not happy with the Pakistani Punjabi, and so are the Baltis. So they are a country which is imploding, if I may use that word, and therefore they are doing this desperate measures. The Pakistan Army chief is retiring. He's in a hurry. He wants to prove to his people that he can do a good job, and he wants an extension, unlikely to get. He's already sent his family abroad. So this is the Pakistan we are trying to deal with. This is the Pakistan which is trying to escalate a country which is all set to implode and lose.
General Kulkarni, what technological and operational advantages does India have to ensure minimal civilian casualties in a response to Pakistan, especially if Pakistan is using civilian aircraft as shields, as we have seen in this particular case?
This is something absolutely low, I think. Using civilian aircraft when we intend, and we have always closed the airspace, fully well knowing that it is Pakistan which has attacked, and India is only retaliating to that attack. And despite that, in short, probably it shows that Pakistan has no respect for civilian lives whatsoever. They just don't care, and probably also try to drag India into yet another controversy that if in case some of the missiles would have hit that civilian airline, again yet another controversy, and they're trying to defame India is concerned. But we've had a lot of examples of Pakistan disrespecting their own citizens, disrespecting their own soldiers. We've seen them in Kargil. We had to bury them. They did not even claim those bodies, saying that they didn't belong to them. And years later, then their prime minister said, yes, all of these soldiers that you buried. We have letters from the Pakistani, some brigadiers whose sons got buried over there, requesting if the bodies could be sent back to Pakistan. So that is Pakistan for all of us. No respect whatsoever. It's a very, very self-centered society of the generals, who are just looking at wanting to make hay while they're in service, trying to amass enough wealth, and immediately on retirement going back to foreign countries and settling down there. So, and a Pakistan army, which almost has, I'm sure the ambassador, because he's very much, he has knowledge and has served over in Pakistan, have an entire business, over $25 billion turnover business every year of the Pakistan army, in which Pakistan also it gives them about $10 billion to run their army. So this is what it is for all of us. Pakistan 24th bailout from IMF, but Pakistan has no concern whatsoever for its citizens. But we have been able to show we have to intercept all their drones, we have to intercept all their missiles. We have to ensure the safety of our people. We have created bunkers for these people along the LOC. We request them to get into the bunkers, but most of them now seem to be migrating from there and coming rather inward, so that their lives to be safe. For us, every life counts. Can you imagine, for 4 people who did what they did in Pahalgam, entire Pakistan army has taken on themselves and attacking India. Not only that, you saw all their 70, 80, all those coffins wrapped up in Pakistani national flag, been given a state funeral. They have the service officers and police and the whole lot of them as if it's a state funeral been given to them. What ridiculous, absolute.
Yes, indeed.
Pakistan is deeply involved in terrorism. There's no denying the fact.
Ambassador Raghavan, so we've seen that the international community to a large extent has supported India's right to respond to Pahalgam, and as you said, that they're asking for de-escalation as well. But to what extent has India successfully leveraged its relationships and with friendly nations and allies to a large extent?
I think there is a great deal of understanding of India's position. And this has happened incrementally because most countries are conscious and fully aware of Pakistan's long engagement with terrorist groups and as to how it uses these groups as instruments of state policy. So I don't think there is any lack of understanding of India's position or any lack of sympathy with India's position. I think that is generally widely known and widely accepted. The point is that most third countries want the situation not to escalate further. And that certainly is our aim also, because our objective was to send some very strong messages to Pakistan. And in my view, those messages have been sent and have registered. I think the problem is to what extent the Pakistan army can now climb out of the hole it has dug itself into, and whether diplomacy can play a role in helping it climb out of that hole. The fact that a very strong and powerful message has been sent and has registered in Pakistan, and not just in the Pakistan military, across a cross-section of Pakistan society, I think that point we should not lose sight of.
Indeed. Do stay with us, gentlemen. We'll play out a package about Pakistan's economic situation and it moving the IMF, and then I'll come back to you for more reactions. Pakistan boasts, of war readiness, but reality tells us a different story. India's response to the Pahalgam terror attack dealt, in fact, yet another blow to Pakistan's struggling economy. Bans on Pakistani ships, imports and postal services have hit home hard. DD India's Raghav Kumar Jha explores why Pakistan can't afford a war with India.
Struggling with a wrecked economy, Pakistan faces significant challenges like rising poverty, high inflation, and persistent debt issues. The country's economy has been badly impacted by factors like the COVID-19 pandemic, inflation, poor economic development, corruption, political unrest, and the effects of Russia-Ukraine war. According to reports, Pakistan has foreign exchange reserves of only $13.15 billion, whereas it has to pay foreign debts of $26 billion in the financial year 2025-26. Pakistan's GDP is at $338.37 billion, and it has only enough money to import goods for 2 months. In fact, Pakistan's economy is in shambles. A persistently high current account deficit and external debt obligations drained its foreign exchange reserves. By 2023, the country faced a severe balance of payment crisis, with reserves falling below $4 billion, enough for just a few weeks of imports. Pakistan is heavily reliant on external aid, particularly from the United States, China, and the international financial institutions like the International Monetary Fund or IMF. Pakistan's exports base remained narrow while imports grew consistently. Periodic IMF bailouts, more than 20 programs since 1980s, became a hallmark of Pakistan's economic policy. Each bailout brought temporary stability, but structural reforms were either delayed or diluted due to corruption. However, this is not the end of Pakistan's economic woes. The tougher times are ahead as India's retaliatory steps in the aftermath of Pahalgam terror attack threaten to break its crucial economic support links. India has imposed a blanket ban on direct or indirect import and transit of all goods originating in or exported from Pakistan following the closure of the Wagah-Atari trade route. The halt is likely to disrupt Pakistan's pharmaceutical, chemical, and food sectors, which depend heavily on Indian inputs. Informal trade via third countries like the UAE and Singapore will also come under strain due to heightened security and costs. India has barred all ships bearing the Pakistani flag from entering Indian ports and has suspended all maritime activities. Also, all postal and courier services in Pakistan stand suspended. Against this backdrop, the global rating agency Moody's has also warned Pakistan. The rating agency said on Monday that a sustained escalation in tensions with India would likely hit Pakistan's economy and hamper the government's ongoing fiscal consolidation. It warned the Indo-Pak tensions could impair Pakistan's access to external financing and put foreign exchange reserves, which is significantly low to meet existing debts, under severe stress. Amidst an economic crisis ridden by low reserves and high debts, Pakistan is running the country taking loans from the IMF. Against this backdrop, if Pakistan wages war with India, it will have to spend an estimated $1.5 to $3.2 million per day or $45 to $96 million per month, putting considerable pressure on Pakistan's defense budget of $7.64 billion. Amidst all this, how Pakistan will handle all this extraordinary stress on its economy is $1 million question. Raghav Kumar Jha for DD India.
Air Marshal Chopra, what are the chances, or to what extent do you think Pakistan will be utilizing IMF funds to fund its military operations?
First I must say that, after listening to this lovely briefing on the economic measures and what is the state of Pakistan economy, even if they get, what IMF is going to give them is a bailout to be able to not pay back the interest immediately, but pay back a little later. So there's a very little relief if you see in the overall sense, and we know that the state of economy that you have just explained. So it's not going to make a big difference. It's not going to be able to use that money much to buy some arms at a very short notice, very, very quickly, if it doesn't already have. So what we need to do is, surely, as Ambassador mentioned and as the Prime Minister and everybody has been saying, that ultimately we do not want a full-fledged war. We must escalate to de-escalate. Escalate to the point that we punish them for whenever they try to attack our civilian or military targets, but not to cross any threshold that it becomes a full-blown war. So therefore, we have many other ways. While the military tightens the noose against their military by greater firepower with greater capability, we must continue to use the non-kinetic means, the diplomatic pressure, the pressure on the economy. We have stopped their trade. The cheap medicines that used to go from India, they don't get that anymore.
Right.
Our border crossing points have been closed. The cheap treatment that the Pakistanis to come in India and have cheap treatment in Indian, high quality treatment in Indian hospitals, that has been denied. So there are many, many measures. And of course the Indus Water Treaty, we can regulate the flow in a manner that can be very punishing to Pakistan. We can flood them when they don't need it, and we can, get a drought going by stopping.
Right.
So there are many, many other means to go, but I want to show that this money is not sufficient to be able to, build inventories, military inventories, not to be able to escalate the military operations on the border. They have to manage with what they already have, and even if they have to acquire some weapons or drones from outside, it takes some time to physically be able to contact and come. So therefore, I don't look at this IMF bailout as a big thing. It's till the next bailout, it's a survival for them to be able to give fuel and food and water to their own people. So I don't see anything more than that.
General Kulkarni, China too, is a huge creditor to Pakistan. In fact, China owns about 22% of Pakistan's external debt. So, and China, as you did mention, 80% of Pakistan's war inventory seems to be Chinese now. So, to what extent do you think that the Chinese would continue to supply Pakistan with that kind of equipment? And also, they're getting drones from Turkey, it appears. So, how what's the payment mechanism for these things?
Nikhil, I think they have outsourced Gwada. The 40 billion or maybe around $60 billion that they intend investing it in the CPEC, nothing of it is going to go to Pakistan, much that the Pakistan economy thought, and slowly and steadily they will acquire whole of Gwadar and maybe even a portion of Balochistan, primarily because every Pakistani citizen owes 86,000 rupees. Can you imagine 220 million people owing 86,000 rupees each as debt? That's the kind of debt that you find Pakistan in. If that be so, and with the kind of Balochistan, you find the kind of resistance that's there in Balochistan, and the Balochis themselves, Fazlur Rahman in the National Assembly has stated himself that there are provinces in Balochistan where Pakistani national flags don't fly. It's only where Balochistan flag is flying. Yeah, that is the state of affairs. You have problems in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. You have problems in Balochistan. You have problems with the Balochistan Liberation Army. You have problems with Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. Pakistan is in a dire state economically, politically, and militarily. I think Pakistan is on the verge of breaking up. If Pakistan doesn't know as yet, and it still continues to use terrorism and an instrument of state policy, I'm sorry, I don't think the world will look at Pakistan in a very light way. But Pakistan has a unique art of survival. Yes. It managed itself, coming closer to US as long as it helped. Now it got into the lap of China, where it will be grabbed. I think the dragon will wrap
I think we're running short of time, so let me get the last word in from Ambassador Raghavan. Ambassador Raghavan, to what extent, will the IMF put stricter conditions on Pakistan after it goes to them once again for one more bailout?
It's very difficult to say. In my view, as I said earlier, most countries, while they have a great deal of sympathy and understanding of India's position, take stances based on their own interests. They don't necessarily see everything from the Indian perspective. They will follow their own national interests. So we will have to wait and see what the IMF board in its wisdom decides. But I will say, as a point which strikes me, that when we are dealing with an adversary like Pakistan, with which we have a long history of very, very conflicted relations, it is good not to be complacent. The Pakistanis, despite the deep economic troubles and structural issues they face, and despite a huge range of internal and external challenges, nevertheless, over history, have always consolidated when it came to taking anti-India positions. So we should not be at all complacent about the nature of the adversary we are dealing with, or let our guard down. The Pakistanis, as was mentioned, have a great deal of staying power, and when it comes to dealing with India, they can draw on reserves of strength which we sometimes don't fully take account of. So I would say we have to keep our guard up, but at the same time we have to be clinical and non-escalatory in approach.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Air Marshal Anil Chopra, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, and Ambassador TCA Raghavan. Thank you for help broadening our understanding of the state of play of this particular offensive by Pakistan and India's proportionate and measured response. Thank you for being with us. That's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day, and for those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lynn. Thank you for joining us. Namaskar.